So, guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. And as you know, when we do the podcast, I seem to only invite the people that I genuinely want on here. 'Cause it's not about glorification or trying to make people. It's trying to find out who the person is that I'm speaking to. So today, I'm happy to be speaking to Bingy. How are you, sir?
You know something? Apart from having getting over a bad virus, losing my voice, some people would have said that's good because I can talk when I'm ready.
I can verify that as well. Bingy. I can verify that.
You know, so yeah, I'm good. I'm blessed. I'm here, 6 foot above ground, so I have to give thanks for that.
Of course. So again, like people think that some things are pre-recorded and questions are being asked. So there's no question being asked. So how we usually do it is I have one question for you, and at the end, you can ask any question you want from me. Okay. So that'll get your cogs ticking. So if it's something you've always wondered, then you think, I'll ask that question. So my first question to you is, in any other walk of life, or should I say, in a certain walk of life, the way you ask this question could be quite disrespectful.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, who are you?
Who am I? I don't think there's nothing wrong with that question. Who am I? Well, first of all, I would say I'm Bingy, the son of Daphne Brown. Big up Mama Daphne. I'm also Bingy, the brother. I've got one sister, 4 brothers. I'm also Bingy, the father of 13, the oldest being 44 and the youngest being 17. I'm also Bingy, the grandfather of 16, the oldest being, if I'm not wrong, 21, the youngest 2 years, going on to 3-year-old. I'm also Bingy, even though some people might agree, some people might disagree, the quiet and the humble person. I can also be very reserved sometimes. At the same time, like I said at the beginning, when I'm ready to have a reasoning to talk, I can talk when I'm ready. And when I'm ready to keep quiet, I'll keep quiet. I was taught from an early age, those who will listen keenly will also inherit knowledge keenly. So I like to listen and observe. And then if I've got something to say, then I will say it. So the question that you asked, who am I think it's good from a different perspective how I look at it, because I think I'm a person who, over the years, from in my young age to coming up, can be like a lot of us, you've surely misunderstood or misunderstood. And sometimes people look at you a certain way, and even you will say, that's not me, but that's how people perceive you. Because on the outside looking in, some people can only look from the outside and pigeonhole you.
Well, it can also be your name that people can perceive you from.
And the
without
perception.
the perception, because they've not actually seen you or met you, but they may have heard of you. So the perception there is
so
that.
People can often have their own judgmental views about you.
Of course.
So sometimes is, for me growing up and living in the the era.
That's where I want to go.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take you back in time, because obviously you're not going to remember your birth. Okay, so when you're growing up, let's go to your family. So mom, dad, brother, sisters, household. You know, what is that like growing up? Is it have you always been from the city you're from now, or was you?
Well, even though some people don't believe it and know it, I was actually born in Doncaster.
Wow.
Yeah, many years, 1964. And if you work it out, I'm 62-year-old. So I was actually born in Doncaster, and we left Doncaster. I think we moved to Bradford. I was about 3-4-year-old, and
I'm just thinking it would have been pretty rough back then
yeah,
in Doncaster. I'm talking like your mum and dad,
yeah.
that era.
Well, it's funny, because I didn't grow with my father. My father left England when I was a young person. When I tell this story, my father had to leave this country because of an incident with police. The story I was told, where assault. Back in them days when police used to take advantage of people, and something happened. And anyway, long story cut short, he had to splurt, as we would say. And from that time until now, we've never seen him until this day. So I've grown in a answer to the question in a single parent. This is why Mama Daphne, she gets all my respect. Imagine bringing up four boys, one sister, having them, and having to go through the hardship, like I said, back in the 60s, 70s. And I always say to people, I don't think even though we come from a poverty-stricken era, and I cannot look back at my past growing up and saying that it was bad within the household. There was no abuse. There was no in any shape or form. There was no abuse. We didn't lack having food on the plate, even though we didn't have. I can remember not having many things in life which the non people did have. So I would say, yeah, we're growing up in a single parent household. Poverty was there, and I think the whole perception about when you're growing in a poverty-stricken household, that the inevitable can happen and does happen.
So saying that, then you moved to Bradford, and obviously all your brother and sister, you're all in Bradford now. So would you say that you kind of took on that role as, not as a parent, because clearly you're not the parent, but you're the oldest of the family?
I'm not. I'm actually the second oldest.
Yeah.
I've got the older brother named Peter.
Okay.
But the problem is, everybody thinks I'm the oldest.
See, this is a misconception. Because again, me too, which then proves even more that this is not prescripted, because even I believe that you was the oldest one.
No.
Okay. So was there a conscious within you and your older brother to be like the ones that look out for everybody else?
No, my oldest brother didn't actually, growing up, my oldest brother didn't actually grow with us.
Okay.
For a vast amount of years. He used to go and come, but he didn't directly grow with us. He'd get missing, come back and live with us, get missing, come back and live with us.
So the Gallivanter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was that way. And over the years, I think people automatically, they think that Bingy is the oldest.
But that would have been because you're the one that they saw around all
most
the time.
of the time.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So obviously you're growing up in the 70s,
Yeah.
so late 60s, then you get into the 70s in Bradford.
Yeah.
So how was school for you? Did you leave school? Because back then it would have been not A levels. It would have been O levels. Is it O levels? Is that what they called it back then?
All levels. Let me tell you about me. I used to go to school. I wasn't. I'm going to use the terminology dunce to say as they use today. I would say I was kind of smart, but the problem I had, if I can say that, in my teens, I started to listen to certain music.
Okay.
Positive revolutionary music, your Bob Marley, Burning Spray, Peter Tosh, Israel Vibration, many other old music, which then turned my head towards Rastafari. So as soon as I started to go in that direction, school, I wasn't interested in school, because as far as I was concerned, when I started to read up, because I can honestly remember when I found out that Egypt was actually in Africa. Watching TV, growing up, seeing the movies, Egypt, and it was all white people. And you're there thinking, well, when I found out Egypt, I think I was being about 13, 14 when I realized Egypt was in Africa. And that was only by me reading books. So that again made me think, well, how comes I'm going to school and I didn't know that Egypt. I can remember even the conversation I had with certain people, including my mother and other people around us, saying, imagine you're growing up and I didn't realize that Egypt was actually in Africa until now. Which then lead me to realize we have been misled. And all certain thing has been misinterpreted towards just by watching telly. As we used to say back then, television. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because we used to just watch telly, movies, your Tarzan, as you know about Tarzan, the white man controlling
in the King of the Jungle.
King of the Jungle, fighting the local tribe, fighting with lions, alligator, from cowboy and Indians. Always wanting to be the cowboy and not the Indian. So come middle school, when I was at middle school before I went to upper school, I was going to school regular. As soon as I went to upper school, which was Roseway Upper School, the name's changed now, I believe. I think it's called Allerton. I wasn't interested in school as far as I was concerned. There's nothing you can teach me. Because anything you teach me is going to be lies, it's going to be bullshit, it's going to be rubbish. That is the idea of. It's not that I'm going to tell the young people nowadays, going to school and getting your academic teachings. You need it. But I just had that perception because I learned certain things and I was wondering, well, how come I didn't know this? Why am I not taught this in school?
Yeah.
So my mind was school wasn't for me.
Because they're not telling you the truth.
Because they're not telling me.
And then everything you're going outside of school and reading up,
I'm finding out.
You're finding out.
I'm finding out that black people, it wasn't just about slavery. I had to find that out myself. Finding out that black people built pyramids, built a lot of great civilizations. They had top archaeologists, top scientists, top medical people. And I learned this myself, not in school. My fault was, how comes I wasn't taught this in school? I can remember having lessons about history, about the Romans, the Saxons.
Okay, so from there, are you more on the streets?
So this is where, well, wasn't predominantly on the streets. We used to have somewhere that we used to go.
Okay.
Because back in then, you couldn't walk around town. Because you used to have...
Truant officers?
Yes. You used to have a truant. You used to have what you call a truant. And I remember him, Mr. Chaudhry, you used to call him. And there was another person, I forget his name. So we used to go into town. But you couldn't go into town because Chaudhry
would be on the prowl.
We used to look around. And if he seen you, he'd approach you and ask you why you're not in school or what you're doing. So we realized that. So what we used to do when we used to slam school is we had a flat close to where I used to live, where my cousin, he left the flat. It's a matter of fact, they used to keep blues there. But he gave me the key, stupidly, to look after. So because he moved the butter shower and that flat was empty, but it still had sound system and chairs and sofa and everything in there. So we used to go there. As a matter of fact, we used to keep Rasta meat in there as well.
Okay. So through the day, you just chill there?
So we just go there.
Yeah, and then on the evening or weekends, might be a blues.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this... Because, do you know what? There's something that I did see on a video where it was quite... Not that it was revolutionary, but it was something that needed to happen in the time that it happened. And you were at the forefront of that. And obviously there was an incident that had happened, which obviously we're not going into.
Yeah.
And it was because there was something like where they started knocking down houses within Bradford. It was within the black community. And it was moving the black community out, but not replacing the housing. Am I getting that right? You did like a...
Well, I'll tell you what happened. In the certain areas like Manningham area, PD8, and also Manchester Road area, which is BD45 and 5. Those areas predominantly Afro-Caribbean community, black community. And come in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a disbursement where they started to move black people from certain areas and put them in different parts of Bradford. Because, like I said, there was houses that they said were going to knock down and build up other things. And so the black community, as it was when I was growing up, to me, it kind of weakened it, the unity and the strength, because you know what it's like. It kind of happened in the Chapel Town, innit?
Yeah.
To a certain extent. And many other areas, even outside of Leeds and Bradford, if you check it. So some people will say it was kind of a divide and conquer or divide and rule thing, where they thought, well, they didn't want us to have that tight knit community vibe. So I think that's where the disbursement happened, where whether it was orchestrated, whether it was planned, or whether it just happened, people can make up their own mind or have their own views.
So is this at the stage where you're growing up? So you're getting into your late teens when this is happening. You're identifying these things. And is this the times when you're around the cafe that you later own?
Yeah, so we, as youngsters, we used to go to Green Lane.
Okay.
The Green Lane Youth Centre. That was our main place where we used to go. And just around the corner from Green Lane Youth Centre was Lum Lane.
Okay.
No, Long Lane, even when I wasn't old enough to go there, we always know about Young Lane, okay, at the Young Lions Cafe. And there was also, I forgot what it was called, not far from, just around the corner from Young Lion, there was also a nightclub. So, you know, like as youngsters, you hear your mom having the conversations with our friends, or when they go out. I remember sometimes back then, my mom used to come back with takeaway. And when we used to ask where it come from, she used to say, the Young Lions.
Okay.
There was also another one just up the road called the Blue Moon Coffee. So it was always been our head. So when I started to go to Green Lane Youth Club as a youngster, and then walk around to the front line, and I used to say, oh, so this is what people are talking about.
So I don't know if this happened with you, but see, when I was younger, and so obviously I'm Hare Hills, but we used to go up into Chapeltown, and there was a certain place, it's not there no more, there was an old club. And when you used to go there, it's like you went there because you was all youth, but really the olders didn't want you there. Because they kind of know where this is leading, like, so they don't want you there, however you are there. Yeah.
Well, this is why me and you probably do what we do now today. Because there's one thing what I am dead against is, you know, when you hear what they call olders are using the terminology youngers to do their dirty work. That was never heard of when we were growing up.
No.
When we used to go onto the front line as youngsters, our holders would kick us up our backside and say, go on, we don't want you around here. You couldn't get involved in certain things. You couldn't do certain things. And if you was doing it, you had to keep it away from holders, as they say. So we had to show them 100%. Anyone 1, 2, 3, 4 years older than you, you had to show them respect. They didn't have to be an old granny or your mother. Anyone 2, 3, 4 years older than you, you had to show them respect. And
because they've waited their turn as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
To go up the ladder.
To reach to their point.
Yeah.
I agree. So when we used to go to the front line, it was a completely different vibe that attracted us as youngsters towards Green Lane, and then from walking from Green Lane, walking around to the Lum Lane, which was called the front line back then. So that's where you go and you see different things happening. You observe different things happening, and as much as we wasn't involved in certain things then, there was also certain things happening which attracted you. Me in my early teens, I was involved in the music scene. I used to travel around England with a sound called Scotch sound, and that also widened my mindset, my knowledge, my information, meeting certain people, and then it makes you think and act differently. And then the reason why I know I started acting differently, anytime you hear your mother saying to you, you think, yeah, man, you're the man inside there, you know. We notice you're going like, yeah, man, that's when you know so you're changing, you're looking at things from a different perspective. Because I was born here, but I went back to Jamaica as after I started to getting more culturally aware of me as a black youth and Rastafari, I wanted to know where my mother come from. Okay. I used to speak to my uncle who was back in Jamaica back then, my cousins, I used to correspond. It wasn't as easy as it is now because I had to run to the telephone box. Probably didn't have a telephone in our house and use and wait for my uncle to make what you call a reverse call.
Okay.
That's how we used to correspond. So he'd make a reverse call from over there. And sometime he'd go to, I forgot where he used to go and use a phone and call us at the telephone box. And believe it or not, that's how I used to correspond with my, I had a girl who used to live in Doncaster as a youth. And I had to run to the telephone box at a certain time, which was just to get the call. Obviously, it's easy now because we've got these.
Yeah.
And I'm saying we didn't have no telephone in our house. And going back to, I started finding out about Jamaica, sitting down, hearing stories about Jamaica. So in my teens, I went back to Jamaica. First time I went there was 6 months and enjoyed it, came back to England, and within 4 or 5 months, I went back there again. So for about 4 or 5 years,
back and forth
in Jamaica, spending like 4 months, 6 months. Really.
So you see, like, for me, so obviously we're like Leeds. You had certain areas within Leeds back then where you just, not that you didn't go, but there was a lot of racism.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking so I don't understand the Bradford, because I once went, there was like a teen scene thing that we used to go to years ago. It was just by the train station.
Mm.
And we went there, and it was the first time that you heard the people coming and you heard them screaming, ointment, ointment, ointment. Yeah. So, and then it was all the whatever words they could come out with. But it was the first time that I was seeing like white guys and Asians, those within this ointment. Like I never knew what this ointment was, but that was like the opposite to like Leeds service crew, you know what I mean, kind of thing, the football thing. So I'm saying this because I'm trying to go like, was there much racism for you or that you seen growing up in your time?
And so let me just, before I come to there, racism, as you can imagine, back in the 70s,
Yeah.
it was rife, in your face. There was no hiding it. There was no camouflage in it. So I experienced racism going to school. I remember one time when I left Maniga Middle School to go to Roseway, and I used to catch the bus and come off on Fountain Road. But one particular time I missed that bus, so that I got on another bus which took me up Allerton side. So instead of walking on Fountain Road and walking up past, I think it was Edmund Campion, it was called, I forgot what it was called, and walk up past that school to Roseway. First time I was only at the school about 2-3 months, Roseway, and I come that way, only to be met by about 20 white guys with a black guy, mixed race brother at the front of them. And unbeknown to me, there was an issue going on before we came there with some black guys who had left the school now.
Okay.
So there was still an ongoing black and white thing going on.
Yeah.
Only for me not to know, to be surrounded that morning going to school. And the one person who put his hand upon me, I never forget it, was actually the black person. They walk up to me and headbutt me. Obviously, I'm there thinking I'm shocked. There's about 20 people surrounding me. And I'm shocked this man come and said, don't come back up here again. Bam. And I'm there thinking.
But you're black.
And he's the only one who come and put his hand on me at the time and calling me names. But I couldn't understand it. So anyway, that was my first. The other incident is when I left school and the excitement of leaving school. So in Bradford back then, there was a lot of mills, cotton mills and everything. It was big back in the days. So we didn't live far from the mills on Fountain Road. If you Google it, you find out that Bradford was rife with mills. So we just walk from Sloane Square, where I used to live, go down to Taunton Road, bam, check road. But we never could get a job. Most of the places we go to, they'll say, oh, wait, let me go ask, and come back and say, oh, there's no jobs. Only for one time, we'd go back to where we come from, and there was a couple of white guys who used to move around us in where we lived. And we told them, and they would go there, and they'd come back and say, yeah, we get a job. And I said, yeah. So we know it was racism. Long story got short, one white guy went there and then come back and said, come back with me. And we ended up getting a job
Okay.
in the mills. I worked there, but I didn't left. I hadn't left school then. This is how bad I was. I hadn't left school then, so I took a job at one of these mills, only for one day for them to come back to me and call me into the shop and said, Richard, because they was going, Richard, you haven't even left school yet. Straight away, I thought, you haven't left school yet, and unfortunately, you're not going to be able to stay here. Because back then, they didn't really ask the necessary questions. We just went there, applied for the job. They give us a job, signed some papers, the pay is rich. So it's a lot, keep a job for, if anything. But you're going to have to go back to school. I didn't go back to school. I just thought, I'm not interested. This is where it led to me being brought to court.
Okay.
And then they put me in a place called Springfield for not going to school.
Oh, so they took you from your mum?
Yeah.
And placed you in a home?
And placed me in a home, which was not far from where we live. It was called Springfield.
Okay.
So I went in there, but I'm not stripping me. Because when I went there, I was vexed because my mom was saying, listen, you're going to have to do this, look, give because so anyway, they took me because I wasn't going to school. So they took me and put me in this home. Sat down, discussed with the person who was there, so I know exactly what to do. Go to school, and if you change and you're going back to school, then we'll know.
Let you can go back home. Okay.
I'm not stupid. I go to school every day.
Until they let you go back home.
Until they let me go. So I ended up staying there for about 6 weeks.
Okay.
It wasn't a long time. Then they came back to me and said, oh, you're doing well at school. School is saying, just keep it up. Bam. I said, yes. Bam. Went back to school for about a week. After that, I was back to my old self.
So a lot of people are knowing who you are in the street because you're on the roads now.
Yeah.
So we'll fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So obviously you have the incident that happens at the cafe. Are you owning the cafe at that time?
No. So what happened with that, the incident you're talking about? So that was a place where we frequent. As we say, most black people used to go there.
Yeah. Well, it was the front line, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the front line. Yeah. So all of us was up there. That time I was touring from Jamaica.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I had not been released from my first prison sentence.
Okay.
So I was released in 1997. I think, I tell you exactly, I think it was a Thursday. It was the day that Lady Diana died. I never forget that. Okay. So I got released from prison on that date after a 10-year sentence. And so that was in 1997. The incident that you are talking about happened in 2000. Okay. So it was a friend they called Dexter Coleman. We call him X. So there was an incident where there was a confrontation. Started off about Stripperly. Started off in regarding to two girls arguing in a pub on Manchester Road in Bradford. And one of the persons who was there with the two girls who was arguing was a male from Leeds. I'm not going to call him the name. And apparently this person, instead of splitting it, he joined in attacking the girl. So Dexter was inside the same pub with some people, and they've turned around and said, no, you can't do that. The two girls are arguing, break it up, you can't be joining.
You can't join in as a man?
As a man. Okay. So obviously, a little altercation has happened, argument, disagreement. Threats have been made, man putting them hand in them pocket like them have things. And what's happened is then X And the people who was with him, I rushed this guy and some of the guys who was inside there. They've run off. And when they've run off now, they have come back about 2 days later to the front line in a car and pointing out
the people that was there.
That was at the pub.
Okay.
So obviously the man them who was standing on the front line now, I've seen this car park up and there's a black guy with an Asian guy and the pointing that the black man them was there. So they've looked him for, that's the same guy.
But then they've recognized him now.
Yeah, saying that he was the same guy who was at the pub with them have the altercation with this. So what's happened is no, the man them have rushed the car. So the car, they've ended up running and leaving the car because they've come out. Yeah. End up running and leaving the car and they've come back for the car afterwards, moved the car. And then the man them are on the front line. And then I wasn't actually there at the time, but I got a phone call saying that man are attacking the front line.
Okay.
I haven't took over at this point. And basically they were saying there's about 100 Asian guys who have attacked the front line. One black guy involved. By the time I've jumped in my car and drove to the front line, it's just finishing. So they're all running off, but there was a whole heap of people. So I've just come out of my car and I'm looking. So the couple of Asian men who I've recognized who were there, who have come back and said, "Oh, Bingy, this it wasn't us who started it. Your guys that started this." And I've been saying, "Yeah, okay." So I'm just there looking. By the time I've looked, I walked round to where the cafe, the Young Lion is, because I got out where the pub is. Not the pub, sorry, where the Bookies is, and walked up where the bus. I'm not sure if you know, or it's.
Yes, it's just like round the corner, not round the corner.
So
but
the Bookies is here. Yeah, this is where it started.
Okay.
And there's a chemist. This used to be the pub, the Perseverance. Yeah, it's now a chemist, and then round there is where the cafe is. So I've come up where the bus stop is, where the Bookies is. Because
you don't want to park your car on the front line.
So I've just. Well, the reason why I parked up because there were a lot of people on the road and what you call it.
Okay.
So I've just parked up there and come out. Bam. So I've walked around. This time the cafe is still locked up. And then the man them lock up in the cafe. So I've walked around the back of the cafe and they've got X hanging out to the window. They're trying to get him out of the window.
Who pull him out of the window, or is he escaping?
No, this is the black man them who are inside the thing are trying to get him out of the window now. So I'm saying, who's that? They said X. I'm saying, I would ask this. But he's lifeless. So I'm saying, listen, get him back into the thing. And we've come back around now. They moved the thing from the door so we can get in. So when we come in now, they bring him downstairs, back through the window, and brought him downstairs.
Sorry, sorry, I need to ask the question. So when you're saying he's in, are they getting him out of the building?
So basically, the cafe is being attacked.
Yeah,
it was being attacked. This time, X has already been shot.
Okay, so X is in the building.
So he's in the building.
Okay.
So what's happened is, I wasn't there. Yeah, this is what I was told by the man that was there. So after they stood up on where the wall is, where the book is at, all of a sudden, all the cars have come parked up. All the man has come running with baseball bats, pickaxe, and everything. So the man them who pick up stone and buckle and started flinging. When they realize that they're getting overpowered with things, they've run towards
the cafe.
Yeah. So they're getting chased toward the cafe now. So X and the rest of the man them are running to the cafe. Bam! One gunshot has been fired.
Okay.
X has managed to run into the thing, and leaned against the wall. And then that's when the man them have turned around and say, right, it look like X had been shot. So they picked him from downstairs and brought him upstairs in the cafe.
Okay.
They barricaded the door because they're trying to get into the door. So they barricaded the door to stop them from getting in. And this man flinging stone, mashing up the window, trying to mash up the door. So they brought, everybody's run upstairs because there's the upstairs in the Young Lion Cafe. And they put, I think, the pool table and everything at the top of the thing so people can't come in. So X is upstairs now. So they're saying to them, you need to get X out because he's being shot. So they're trying to come out of the back window.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah.
And by this time...
So by the time I've come now, everybody's running and leaving now. So when I've turned up now, I've looked, I'm just looking oblivious thinking, what the ass is going on here? Bam. When I've walked around, because I couldn't get through the front door, so I've gone around the back. That's when I seen X at the window. I've come around now. The man who I have come with, we've started to, tell them to open the door. They've opened the door, brought down X, put him on the pavement outside. A doctor from, because there's a medical center across the road, so a doctor has come out there and tried to help. Some other woman who was passing, I think she said she was a nurse, she was trying to help, but you could tell that he was dead.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I was there shaking my head. From my look on him, I could tell he was lifeless. He was dead.
So most people now, because you say like he's your friend. Yeah. And I'm guessing by now you're classed as one of the elders. So most people are going to think you're going to seek revenge. That's what most people are going to think.
Yeah.
However, you go down another route, don't you?
I'll tell you what happened. So this is exactly what happened. X is well known. So man and man have come from different parts of England as well as man is there. Or say, listen, we can't allow this to happen. No, I was approached because my name is Colin. So I was approached by the police. So the police them have asked me, because they set up in the Green, not the Green Lane Youth Club, but the other center there, which was for black youths. So the police have set up inside there. So they've asked for a meeting with me. So I've gone to this meeting, and the superintendent at the time has said, listen, we know most of the story, what's happened. We know where it's coming from. What we're worried about is retribution and this turning out into something, because the information where we're going out is that people are planning revenge. We don't want it to reach today. So we want to go down the normal route. We want, leave us to do our job. We know exactly who's involved.
Let us go out, let us arrest them, let's take them to court, conviction, send them to jail.
So, where you call it? So, obviously it said Bingy, call me by me Bingy, not even Richard, and said the information that we are getting, that you are the person to talk to.
Okay.
Because you are the one who have got the influence, and you are the one who can make things happen. And that, me, no, I'm there thinking, they call it my name. If anything happens, they're going to come to me.
Yeah.
Because they're saying I'm the one who's got the influence. I'm the one who can talk to the man them.
Are you under pressure?
Eh?
Are you under pressure then?
So I'm on, not just under pressure, I'm also on license.
Yeah, because
I've just been released from a 10-year sentence. Yeah. So they've come to me now, and so in this meeting now, they've said about this conversation. So I've said, listen, I cannot guarantee that there's not going to be any retaliation because
I don't own these people.
no, even though you're saying that I've got influence and these people will listen to me, I cannot guarantee because some of the people have even mentioned are coming from
Other
out of town.
cities. Yeah.
So I can't guarantee what's going to happen from what's not going to happen. I will try my best for the people who I know to talk to them, to say, listen, let the police them do their job. Let them do their due diligence and where. So obviously I'm under pressure now because underground, my name getting calls saying that most of the man them are controlled by Bingy.
Yeah.
And
they're under your influence.
Yeah. So I'm there saying I don't want my name being called. Let them people them do their job. Let the police do what they're doing. They've already said that they know who it is, so let them do what they're doing. So what we've done, we've had we sat down with people from the Asian community because now there's Asian brothers who I know who have come to us and said, listen, we don't agree with what happened. It was out of order. And what pissed a lot of people off is the person who got the people to come there had told a lie, saying that this is coming from drugs.
Okay.
What they said is the yardman them has robbed X amount of key from this person. And this is the phone call that they've made to people and say, listen, they've robbed me. Come. If you come, we'll make sure that we get back this thing and I'll look after whoever.
Yeah, because you can't turn around and say it was over 2 girls, can you?
No. And
so to get people involved.
So to get people involved, and that's why they was able to get literally probably about 100 plus people come up there. The person who did it as well he had a name anyway. So he's called people up there. And so what's happened now is I'm in the position now where police, anytime it comes to anything called the Verge, can we have a meeting with Bingy? So it's reached to know where I'm the spokesman.
So you now got to be cleaner than clean now.
Yeah. So I'm the spokesman now because everybody's calling my name. So the police, and anytime they want to talk, and because they've said they don't want the front line to lock down, this is where we've come down. And the person who had it before doesn't want to open it. He's already said, I'm not opening back this place. I can't take it. It's not the first. Coincidentally, about a month, a couple of weeks before, it was already firebombed by some Asian guys.
Okay, so they're trying to close down the front line.
So so we've turned around, and one thing what I've said to them, this is our place. It's been our place since in the 60s. I've come here from a teenager. And we're not going to make anybody come and push us away.
So let me just midway though, Bingy, let me ask you a question, because I can imagine, because of what you said and being quite a revolutionary, where you're saying what the people are teaching me in school is not necessarily being the truth. So you become quite rebellious.
Very.
Yeah. But then I'm saying you're quite anti-authority as well.
Very.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm thinking now, this has to be hard, because you're becoming a spokesperson for the black community, but you're also having to sit down with police who are basically, in not uncertain terms, saying, listen, we know that you have control of this area, whatever it might be of how you control it. But then you're having to work with them to keep the peace. So is that, like, how do you keep the focus, or how are you dealing with that, where you're saying, no, I'm not working with the police? Because obviously, you know, there's going to be people out there that are narrow-minded, that are going to go, see, Bingy's working with police and going for meetings. And
so from that aspect of how it was, in regarding to work with police, in regarding to work with police is the term work with the police is not work with them.
Yeah.
Is meaning that saying to them, well, at the end of the meeting, because they've turned around and I'm saying to them, we're not losing this.
Yeah. You're under no means, by any means necessary, we're not losing the front line.
No, we're not losing the front line.
Okay.
That's my stance.
Yeah.
Yeah. The police are saying, well, we're not saying that we're wanting to lose the front line. The person who owns it now is saying that he doesn't want it. So I've turned around and said, well, if he's not going to take over it, I will take over it. Because I'm keen to make sure that this stays within the...
So there's still a focal point for the black community.
Yeah. So that's where I and Bingy, you know Bingy.
yeah, I know Verge.
So me and Bingy...
Actually, shouts out to Verge if he's watching this, because he's one of the few men that I know that I've never seen without a smile on his face.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
In any circumstances. Yeah. Like, big shout out to Bingy.
So we have then decided to take over the place.
Okay.
So we've said that then we'll take over the place. We fix it up. Spend our own money, fix it up, right back on the level. We're open now. The investigation is going on. They've arrested people for the shooting. Many people are still vexed because they were saying they would rather eye for eye.
Yeah.
Never mind going to prison, whatever the case may be.
Okay, so that being said, Bingy, I was always told many years ago that everybody has a breaking point.
Yeah.
Or they have a light bulb moment. So obviously we know the work that you're doing now.
Yeah.
So what is that? What is it? Because it might not necessarily be a breaking point. Like mine's a letter from my mum. So it's not a breaking point. It's just that moment where you go,
light bulb.
Yeah, light bulb. So what is yours?
My light bulb moment. So the first sentence was 10 years. My second sentence was 11 and a half years. Took off 2 years, brought it down to 9.5 years. My third and last sentence was 2017. I was given 10 years, 6 months. No, it's 10 years, 3 months for another conspiracy supply charge. So as you can imagine, I was out. Everything was all right. I'd moved back to Jamaica in 2012. So I was actually living in Jamaica. I've come to England. I was literally in England 1 week when I was arrested, 2017, August. I was arrested for conspiracy to supply Yorkshire. I pleaded guilty and I was given 10 years, 3 months. While I was, and I always said this in a conversation, while I was on remand, I was pissed off is an understatement. Mostly with myself because I was all right. Everything was going in the right level. I was into the music scene. I had a music studio. Still have the studio, as a matter of fact. I was into the music scene. I had some really good artists working with who was progressing in the music scene. Traveling to and from Jamaica. And this happens, bam. And I always said this, it doesn't make a difference what you are doing. If you don't change your surroundings, if you don't change the people around you, you're always going to get drawn in. Even if you're not directly involved, you're always going to get drawn into it. So when police are coming for them, they're going to come for you, especially if you have a reputation.
Yeah.
Regardless. So I'm there sitting down in my cell. I said, something's got to give. You know what I'm saying? I've let down a lot of people. I'm back in prison, back in the situation. So while I was in prison, I was approached. But while I was inside there, I didn't hear nothing about the hell and the flock.
Okay.
When I was on the oath. But when I was in prison, I started hearing about this hell and flock because it was all in there was a couple of them in the army on different wings, and the argument and the to and fro within prison and the threats. So on my wing there was a couple of flock man. So a couple of occasions, the one incident, some man have run up to the gate, shouting out at some next man, them, I call them name, who are walking like either going to visits or from visits. And the shouting, no, what's going to happen? You're going to do this, we're going to do that to you.
So they're incriminating themselves, yeah.
Yeah, so me being me, now I'm there standing up listening, and I'm there thinking. So when they walked away, I've gone up to them. I'm saying, Bradford, is there any need for that? Even if you mean what you're saying, there's no need. Because if you are going to do it, if it happens, the police are going to come take you right out of this thing and say, well, you was throwing threats, and then that same thing what you said, that has happened to that person's house or whatever. And I'm just saying, even a couple incidents, I'm there in the middle saying, listen, where this, where that. So one particular officer has come to me and said, are you interested in being a mentor? Me going through my first 2 sentences, I'm not interested. Because what has changed now is my first 2 sentences, 10 years and above, was automatically cut here. You remember?
Yeah.
So my first 2 sentences, I was a cut here prisoner.
Whereas this time round.
So this time, no, I'm seeing people with 10, 12, 13 years as cat. I'm not sentenced yet. Doing saying that they're going to Lindholm and they're going. I said, "Oh, comes." I said, "I'm cat see." And you just got 13 years. I said, "Yeah." So that's when I'm there thinking, right, prison change, because how I know it is 10 and above was automatic. Like, you have to go on the books. Because 2 times I was on the books. So I'm there thinking, okay. So while I'm there now, and I was approached by one particular officer who knows me from my last sentence, had come to me and said, Bingy, you're old. The prisoner.
Yeah, he just walk up to you and go, "You're old." He's older.
Older.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the youth in me, we know that they respect you. So the younger ones. So you want to be a mentor? I'm there saying, no, I'm not interested in that. I said to him, no, I'm not interested. I just want to do my sentence and get out of here. So it was a conversation I'm having though with there was an Irish prisoner on there, and this Irish prisoner, as me and him having a conversation, and he turned around and said, "I'm sick of this. I keep on coming to prison. I think me and you are around the same age, Bingy. We have to approach things differently now, and you have to start from inside here." And I said, "You know something, you're right." So I mentioned it to him, and I mentioned it to my family that they'd approach it, and he was saying, "Do it. Do something different that you would never do." Because back in the days, I wouldn't think that on my other 2 sentences, I wouldn't think that I could apply for a red band job, because as far as I'm concerned, they're not giving somebody like a red band job. The most I've ever been in prison is race relation rep and the PAL, which is no caller listening.
Yeah, listeners, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was like another arm of the Samaritans book.
Yes, same thing. So that's the only thing that I've ever been before. Nothing else. Race relations rep and a PAL, which is no a listener. So I applied to be a listener again, and I applied to be a race relations again. Because while I'm in prison, I always say to people, the 2 things you can do when you're in prison. You can stay in prison and just lie down and make the time go back and waste it. Or you can get fitter or get educated.
Get wiser.
Yeah. I try to do them too. And if you can use your time positive, turn a negative situation into a positive one, that's what I try to do. So I thought, what can I do? I'm not going to go into no naughty shop, as I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Education, I've got only qualification A levels, what I've done over the years in prison. I'm proud to say I've got the equivalent. I left school with no qualifications. As I said,
We've already established you didn't. You never
I
went to
didn't,
school. You never went to school.
and today I've got the equivalent to 4 A levels.
Okay.
Psychology, business, teacher training and development. I got the 7323 teacher training to be a teacher. Business, history, because I studied history and world religions. And journalism as well, level 2 in journalism.
Okay.
So and on top of that, I've written 2 books over the time that I was in prison. The last time, 2 books that I've got published. One called Living in a Dream, which is based on my writing is all based on what I call faction. It's facts.
Where can people find these books?
Amazon.
Okay, so what you do is you send me the link and we'll put the link in the bio for the channel so people can.
So basically what I do, I write. I've even written 4 more books which I haven't got around to publishing yet. But Living a Dream and Double Standards are all based upon true life things what has happened. I just turn them into a fictional story. So I call my writing faction.
Okay. So
it's facts.
Yeah.
So there's true life personalities in there. I just change the name and change certain things what's happened. But anybody who reads it, they'll say, I know that person. I will know what he's talking about.
So you're mentoring within prison.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got to get released.
Yeah.
So what happens there without,
So what's happened now? I was approached by the officer that I said, so what I've done is come back to me and because I've applied for race relations and I've applied for listeners. So it come to me and said, he wants to make me a mentor. I've asked me again. And I said, so what is the mentor going to be? He said, well, we're starting a new wing, incentive substance-free living wing. So I said, well, I'll take you up on it. So while I was doing that, I was basically, lockdown happened around the same time. So we was going around bringing things for people who were behind the door. We started a channel inside the prison, giving information. And it was something that I enjoyed mentoring. So I started to look at things from a different perspective, because this officer, when I used to look at the uniform, I stopped looking at the uniform and I started looking at the person. If you, regardless of who you are, if you deal with me with respect, I'll deal with you with respect. Where before, from you are the uniform, I wasn't interested in you. Don't make the difference of how polite it was. I was not interested in dealing with you. No, I had a different approach, because he looked upon me as Bingy, not Bingy the convict, whatever. He dealt with me on a level. So that made me look at me going forward. So me coming out now, as you asked, back in the days, I would just come out, sit down for a little while, go around the same people, probably do the same thing. It doesn't have to be illegal, but just do the same thing. This time I approach it different. I've never had a 9-to-5 in my life. Never worked for nobody. This time I come out, I applied to
an organization.
I booked up with the agency.
Okay.
So the first job I was given was a driving job with Every, which I didn't like. I spent about 6 weeks. I left that. And then I got another job, driving job for Menzies, again, which I didn't like, working nights. So one day I come home and I said, I'm not going back to that place. Sat down, went online, put in working with ex-offenders. Bam, St. Giles come up. So I seen the job, SOS Plus. I thought, I'm not going to get this, but I'm going to apply. So I applied for it. Warm bro, I get a phone call saying that they're offering me an interview. This is where it gets interesting. So I go into, they've invited me to come in for this interview. And then when I go into this interview, I'm interviewed by a lady, and another guy from Huddersfield has interviewed me. So I've got to wait about 2-3 days, and then I've got a phone call, and then the lady said, "Well, I've got some good news and bad news. The bad news is you didn't get that. So I want you to come and have another interview because I've got a position I want to offer you." I said, "Okay, that's no problem." So I've gone in to have another interview. Gone into the interview, and while I'm on the interview, guess who walks in? Carl Martin. So I haven't said nothing. If you remember, I didn't say nothing to you.
No, you didn't. You didn't say a word.
So I didn't say nothing. I thought, okay. And you come in with I forgot his name. The Asian guy. Yeah. So he'd come in, sat down, and I remember asking you the question. And I know you've looked at me. I've looked at you. And then before I think we was in about a couple of minutes, if that. And then you've stopped the interview and you've said, "Tell me something. Bingy."
Exactly. You know what it was? It's because I was going through it and it was like, I see you going, I thought, I know this guy. Anyway, right away, we're going. I think we got through a couple of minutes, you know, there's like the little questions that you ask, you know. And then I just remember just putting the pen down and going, "Me," and you was like, and I remember your words, what you said to me, you was like, "Yeah, I recognized you when I came in, and I thought if he doesn't recognize me, I'll just carry on with the interview. But if he does, then we'll chat."
Yeah.
So yeah, and then obviously you got the job. So you've been working with the kids. You've been, I can say you've been doing fantastic work with the kids, and it's something that you're really enjoying.
Yeah.
So my final question is, before you get to ask your question, is if you could change anything, going back in time, what would you change and why?
You know something? I've been asked this question before, and believe it or not, there's not much I would change. You know why? I'm still here. My life, I've had a very good life. Don't get me wrong, spending 18 years in prison, some people would it can't be that good. But you know something? I learned a lot in a prison. I also got educated in prison. And what I'm doing now is because of my lived experience going to prison. Don't get me wrong. If I could have the same experiences I had now without going to prison and spending more time with my kids who I've lost a lot of, and my loved ones, then yes. But there's not much things I would change in my life other than the fact that I've spent 18 years behind the prison walls. And you know something? A lot of things in life happen for a reason. I'm still here. My life is, I can't complain about life. Because I always say from your 6 foot above ground, you have to just give thanks for what you have. And our journeys are made for a reason. So I believe I've gone through what I've gone through to be doing what I'm doing now, to try deter young people from going down the road that I've been through, because you know it. I listen to some people glorifying what they've been through, talking on social media, what they've been through, what they've done, and making people look like it's a glorified thing. Trust me, I will tell anybody this. I'm not afraid to say it. I was in prison many times in prison. And regardless, you might think that prison is easy. It's one of the hardest things I've been through, being locked away. It's not easy. It's very hard. Yes, I've done it 3 times. But trust me, it's only because I'm resilient and my mind is strong. While I'm here being able to sit with you today and talk. And prison is not the place it's be. And this is one of the things which burns inside me to deter. None of my children, I've got 14, have been to prison.
That's good.
Sorry, I'm lying. One of them has, for section 18 months, and he hasn't been back. That was many years ago. Other than that, I've got eight sons. And none of them have been to prison. And my daughters, none of them have been involved. All of them are in good job, good positions. And I want parents to have that same experience. I don't want parents to have to go visit their sons or daughter in prison. I don't want parents to come after identify their son or daughter on a slab in a morgue or in the hospital. I don't want parents to have to go visit their crippled son or daughter in the hospital. This is what drives me to want to do what I'm doing now, into try diverting young people away from crime, gangs, and drugs and whatever. And as well as doing that now, to show that people like myself who had a bad reputation, who people had a perception about me, to show that people like us can use our lived experience to do good. And that's why I work with St. Giles, and this is why I'm on the Verge, and this is why I want to do a lot more than what I'm doing.
Well, I like the message, and you know what it is, the lived experience model does work. And again, like most people see on this channel, there's no glorification, like even like the questions I ask and the way we go into things, there's no glorification of where so we go, oh yeah, because regardless of what these people think, when they're saying certain things, these young people are going to attach onto it. Because what you want to do is you're then going to give them an excuse to say, well, he did it, so I have got an excuse of why I can do this because I can change my life. And it says, whoa, stop. Yeah, Bingy, in fact, yeah, sorry, you've got your question.
So basically,
I've already got it already pre-written.
Yeah. So my question now, even I'm gonna have to think about this now. So my question to you is, where do you see, or could I say, I'll put it in a different sense. What do you feel is needed to change the mindset of our young people? What is the real problem behind it?
Right. So I think it's multifaceted. Because there's so many different elements to it, whether you're talking socioeconomic, poverty area, food, your community, what they see. I think there's so many different elements to it. So then pinpoint one. However, what I would say is if you brought back community, a community, you built a community where you have people that are community champions, that are people that know the area, like you, when people are phoning, if someone phones up, regardless of what people think that person is, regardless of what they think they are, if they know that they're within that area and they know there's a person they can go to who can talk to the younger people in that area. Because if you look at it this way, the only time anybody sees police nowadays is when they're coming to do a raid, to take something away. You never see the police come and give anything. Never. They never give. Don't get me wrong. Carnival time, you have the showboating of the police officer will be in the front of the carnival, and it's the only time you'll see a black person wearing a policeman's helmet. Any other time you will. What people don't realize is your carnival is just one giant operation. These people are being blindsided by what it is of this having the people in the front. But community is what will always be prosperous and what can always bring light.
The social indicator to say has not changed for over 200 years.
No, it hasn't changed.
So basically, so you got number one, which is poverty. Then you've got number two, abuse. And then number three, lack of education. So even though I didn't have abuse in my household, I witnessed it around where I lived. Because where we lived in a place where they call Slum Square. People used to call it Slum Square. I witnessed all that. Lack of education, poverty, and abuse, even though it wasn't in my household. So some people would say that it was inevitable for somebody like me to end up where I ended up, which was doing free long-term sentences for violence and drugs. However, I've got other brothers and sisters who didn't go through that, even though two of my other brothers did also go through prison. So our young people today, I'm going to say this, and I might get a little bit of a backlash for it. They're in a completely different situation nowadays in regarding to when I was growing up. There's nowhere, even if today was when I was growing up, I wouldn't have a mobile phone. I wouldn't have a laptop. I wouldn't have Nike. So the youth poverty today is a lot different from poverty from when we were growing up.
Yeah.
So even though poverty is part of the social indicators that push them towards gangs and violence, I think it hasn't changed for 200 years, but I think certain things have been added. Peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when you got some young people who are involved in crime and violence, if you check their background, some of them come from the Bingy school, upper class family, and they might not have had no abuse in there, but yet still they're still attracted to gangs and violence and crime. Why do you think that is? That's my last question.
Why are they still attracted to it?
Yeah, because the social indicators I'm saying that push young
so even
people
if they've
to-
come from a good home, parents, mother, father in the house,
and no abuse.
and no abuse.
Because the three main social indicators is poverty, lack of education, and abuse within the household.
Well, young people are always going to be attracted to, regardless of where the money situation comes into, even if they're good at education. Because like I was saying, my brother wasn't streetwise.
Yeah.
Nothing ever happened to him, but he wasn't very streetwise. But it was one of the things that I scared. And these young people, regardless of the way they look at things, because you've still got social media, you've still got the TV programs and the programs that they watch on TV, and young people can be attracted to that lifestyle through that. Now, like I said, the groomer will always do certain things because people think, oh, when you're from these fluent areas, these young people can't be groomed by money. They're not chasing money. But groomers use a different tactic with them. So what they will do is they'll give them things for free. And then, you pay it back a little bit later. And they'll continuously do that till they get them up to a bigger amount. And they've all got friends who are doing whatever they're doing. And that's another way how they can get these young people involved. And they've got money. But that's how they get them a different way. Obviously, I'm being very vague because I don't want to start giving people clues of how you can do certain things. But for me, I just feel, regardless, education is going to be key. But what they don't educate you in school is about grooming. They don't do social media. They don't do things through social media. And what most people, especially in private, don't even know what the legal age is for social media. And the problem that you're always going to have off the back of that is, although you can have, and I'm going to go back to what you said, the education that you was given wasn't a true reflection of what the world is. And that's one of the key things for me. Education should be a reflection of what is going on in the world today.
And what I also want to add as well, just in case there's any young people who out there saying, see, he didn't want to go to school.
Yeah.
I always say that I am a product
of your environment.
Yeah. So as you know, sometimes to every action there's a reaction. To every action there's a consequence. So sometimes we do things for what actions is happening. So it's just like back in the days when we were growing, I wasn't part of a gang when I was a young people, but everywhere we went, there was 4, 5, 6, and 7 of us because of the same thing, the ointment, being attacked, racism, you had your skinheads, you had National Front. So it reached a time where in Bradford, even in Leeds, because we used to come to Leeds a lot to come to Chapeltown when there was a dance on, and we'd catch the last bus over and then catch either the first bus back to Bradford, or the first train back to Bradford. So we had a lot of experiences where there was always 5, 6, 7 of us. We wouldn't walk by ourselves in town, in Bradford city centre or in Leeds city centre. Because as far as we had in the back of our head, we could be attacked at any time.
And you know, the funny thing about that is because obviously, like Doc Martens, like I will never wear a pair of Doc Martens
Because of what it represents.
because of what it represented when I was growing up. Like for me, Doc Martens represented National Front, and I'm not saying it does now for anybody that wears Doc Martens. I'm not, but I'm just saying for me personally, because you had 8 haulers, 16 haulers, 18 haulers, and the war red laces. So that's just how I grew up. So I would never wear a pair of
Well,
Doc
to tell you the
Martens.
truth, most of the people who we thought was, you know, like when the skinheads, and we thought that all skinheads who just dressed up, I can see them with big Doc Martens, tight jeans, the short green jacket, and skinheads with tattoos. And we always thought that there was the enemy, or part of the enemy, because that is the perception that we knew. When you used to see a National Front making the Hitler signs, that's what. But at the same time, it's that everyone who dresses like that was actually National Front.
Can I just say though, I've got a slight confession on that, because National Front used to be a good excuse as well. Because the amount of times I used National Front getting chased by National Front when I got home late. And it was the only time I probably never get no licks, allegedly. Because I got chased by the National Front, so I would get let off.
Divert.
Yeah, we would divert, but
to tell you the truth, we used to get warned because there was so much attack back then.
Yeah.
There was a warn, especially the city centres. Bradford city centre, it reached to a point where we just said, you know something, we're not going down there by ourselves.
Yeah, there were certain times you didn't hit city centre, like, you know what I'm saying.
But I know today I would say it's covert racism.
Oh yeah,
it's not overt like it used to be.
Can I just say something though? Funny you saying that now, because if you had internet back then, like when we was growing up with the National Front and everything, if you had the internet then, can you imagine how bad the racism would have been?
It'd have been a lot worse.
Yeah. If you had internet back then in the 70s and 80s when the National Front was at peak, I mean, some people will have an argument and say it was earlier than that, but I'm just saying for me, you know, the 80s was quite a significant peak with the National Front. But can you imagine if you had the internet then?
Yeah.
How bad it would have been.
It would have been bad. And for some people who might not know what the National Front is, the equivalent to, what do you call them? No, the National Front today. It's not called the National Front. Is it
EDL?
EDL. Is it, what's it called?
English Defence League?
Yeah.
Is it EDL?
It's just something like that. Yeah. So that's the equivalent to, the only difference is, and it still happens, it's like in prison. I've had these conversations in prison when I've been on a race relation meeting, when they've asked me the question, do I think racism within the prison system has changed? My argument is, it's not overt like it used to be. I remember coming through the reception in Armley in the 80s, on remand one time, and they would have them badges with the gollywog.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
And them, and
Jam jazz,
yeah. And they used to have the NF badges, and they used to have tattoos, and they could openly call you disrespectful. That can't happen now. And so my argument is, it's more covert. It's not over. It's not in your face, but it's underground. It's changed to a certain aspect, but it's still there. It's not as in your face as it was, and because of the legislation behind diversity, it's got to be perceived, even though it's not fully there, because we all know within the judicial system, ethnic minorities make up what? Black people, 12%, but yes, they will make up of the population, but we make up 25% of the prison population.
Yeah.
It's been proved that we get stopped more.
Yep.
It's been proved that we get arrested more, we get charged more, and when we get charged, we get longer sentences.
And let's not go in the realms of the NHS and medicals as well. Also, there was another thing that I seen up the other day, funny enough, was it worked out like 50% more people was getting interviews or callbacks, you know, when they do a blind application. So without doing names and without putting in colour, most people, if they didn't have a black sounding name, was 50% more likely to get a call back for an interview.
Well, to tell the truth, I think a lot of people, when they ask you about ethnicity, I know they said they use it because they want it for data, but some people are skeptical. They said because they think, well, when you fill in an application, and my name is Richard Brown, so it's not really there could be a white guy out there called. It's a case where some people don't like to fill in their ethnicity because they think that is going to push them down, or they might read it and say, that's the situation. But overall, I would say that racism on the whole is still there. It's just not in your face.
100%. I think the reason why why it's undercover is because more white people are willing to call it out, whereas before
it wasn't.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of them, and the ones who, it was only the radical ones who would do it.
Yeah.
Where now a lot of people are more or less willing to. And from one thing I want to say before we finish is, I know we're winding up soon, is that one of the things that I am passionate about doing, as well as doing this work with young people, are going back into prisons to try help offenders or ex-offenders from returning back behind the wall. And is there been so much complaint within the prison system. Don't know I remember back in the days when my first sentence being in Garth prison, Preston, when we were to argue to get certain creams. Because then Africans in there, and certain thing that black people think, even nowadays, even arguing to get at least on the menu, at least 3 properly made Caribbean meals or dishes. Simple things like that. Or even, let's take it to another level. I know once a month in prison, they will, just like on they have a thing what they call Black History Month, where black people are given a platform to recognize the great things that black people have done out there. That should be part of the curriculum, whether it be in prison or in schools itself. And today in 2024, 2025, I'm a year behind, 2025, it's still not happening. Why not? These are the kind of things I want to try to push.
You know, I agree with you, especially education-wise.
Yep.
100%. But I think what you're going to find, Bingy, and this is only because of working within the education system for so long, I think it's hard for schools now to introduce new things. As much as I've turned around and said on here that, you know, education is key, and, you know, teaching real things that's happening in real life with a real life time span of the reality of the world now. The problem you're going to have is there is schools out there now, Bingy, that by the end of this financial year will be at least £250,000 in debt. You have to explain to me how that is possible. If somebody can explain to me how a school, state running school, can be in about a quarter by the end of this financial year. So by the end of March 2026, 31st of March financial year, they will be £250,000 in debt. And this is a school that's educating, let's be honest, could potentially be educating our future doctors, solicitors, even prime minister if you want to go that far, or mechanic, or nurse, or whatever.
Yeah.
How are they meant to educate when you're saying, or the government is saying, we will give 12 billion to Ukraine, but we won't give the education system the same amount, or we won't give the NHS the same amount? For me, you can't. I don't know how you justify it. This is my. You got NATO talking about we're going to give more funding for defense. Listen, let me tell you something. You don't need a defense if you don't busy yourself with wars.
You see, it's getting the priorities right.
Yeah. And the priorities should be at home.
And like you say, education. And thinking about your question, when you said if it's something that I would change in my life, and I said no. One thing what I would do, I would go to school, study, and become a lawyer. Because that's one thing. My youngest daughter, that's what she's.
My brother did that as well.
That's what she's doing now.
So he's past the solicitors.
So she's doing that now, and I would encourage much people out there who can go down that route because it's needed.
Oh, 100%. Especially when you're looking at what's it called, legal aid and all that. And look, I think what people need to realize is the system will always be designed in favor of the rich. The system will always be designed for those in power. And the system is less likely to work for the person that is the common person, such as ourselves, or the person that is earning below a certain wage, because the system is not built for us. However, what people fail to realize is, although the system is not built for us, we have the power of voice. And the problem you have is with the power of voice is where everybody should get together. But what happens then is certain individuals get that power of voice and they leave everybody else behind, because now they've come up.
And being part of what they've been originally.
Being part of what there was originally, to forget that.
And you know something, let me add to that as well. You know the reason why that is? You see, because when you are that power of voice and you start to move up, you get more fight if you keep on being where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people do, they switch to turn to join the same thing that
they fought against.
They rebel for. Yeah. And that's when the word sellout come from regarding. And majority of the people have sellout. There's two things that you have to do. And I always said to people when it comes to it, there's one thing that I am known for is speaking my mind. And I don't care who you are. It's funny, I'm just going to tell you this story before I go. When I was in prison, I was approached by the number one, called me, and with the deputy at the time as well. And they said, Bingy, we want to choose you to have a one-to-one with Boris Johnson. That's when it become want you to. And I said, and I started laughing, me? And you know what they turned around and said? They said, the reason why, I said, why me out of everybody? Why do you want me to have with Boris Johnson? They said, you know why? Because we've known you all this time. There's one thing about you, you're fair. We know that you're going to go there and you're going to talk about what the prison should be doing for prisoners, but you're also going to talk the truth of what the prison is also doing positively. You're not just going to go there and tear because we think you're going to be fair. I am. If I see you doing good, regardless of who you are, I will say it. If I think you're doing bad, regardless of who, I'll say it. So from that point of view, I believe that regardless of who you are, where you're coming from, just be real and just be true to whatever the struggle is, and give people credit when credit is due, and tell and bring it out when it needs to be bring out. If you need to be made aware that you're doing bullshit, then be aware. Remember, when we were growing up, because of my mindset, as far as I was concerned, whether you're the authority, if you're in uniform, I don't care what good you do it. Because you're wearing that uniform, you're no good.
Yeah. It's like we've had the conversation where people go into prison, they have a set of keys. Automatically you go, well, you're part of it because you've got a set of keys.
What I used to be against, whether prison officer, police, or whoever, it's how you interact with me and who you are as a person. Because like I say, at the end of the day, how I look at it, and I remember this as a police officer, they're going to always say they're doing their job. The prison officers are going to say they're just doing their job, even though some of them use their job to abuse the situation.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we've got to be in a position where when I was growing up, I used to say I'm a rebel with a cause and I'm a product of society. So if you think I am, which I have been described in courts negatively, my answer to that is that's because of society. Because I have to adapt.
Yeah.
As a black Rasta man, I have to be me. So I have to adapt to the situation that I am put in. And that's exactly what how some people are. It's just like when you go to prison. Prison is not the easiest of place. As soon as you go beyond them walls, you got to forget about outside and adapt your mind to that situation.
100%. 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, Bingy, listen, thank you, sir. Thank you.